Welcome to this episode of the Smart Leaders Sell podcast. I'm Jessica Lorimer, sales coach and leadership expert, and I am really excited to dig down into today's episode. So it has been a couple of days since I had my first session with my new coach. And for those of you who don't know, I have finally hired, does it sound really lame to say the coach of my dreams? Is that lame? I finally hired a coach that I have been inspired by for a good number of years. And I'm going to talk more about it in future podcast episodes. But needless to say, I have invested an awful lot of money into working with an incredible coach to take my business to new heights in 2019. And we had our first session a couple of days ago, and I wanted to record a podcast episode about what that's like and about one of the key topics that came up for me during my first coaching session with this amazing person. So we have this session and I settle in and I start getting complacent, okay? And I've been complacent in my business for probably about a year. Last year, I made a big deal of the fact that I didn't want to have a coach, that I'd had coaches for a prolonged period of time, and that I'd made some good coaching decisions, and also I'd made some not great coaching decisions. And so I'd been coaching with people who probably weren't at the right level for me to coach with, and who were still working with formulas, and formulas don't really fit into where my business has grown to anymore. And so for me, it was really important that going into this year that I picked the right people to help me grow for my business goals for 2019, which are pretty huge. I have some pretty huge goals for this year, and we've talked about that on a few episodes, so I'm not going to bore you. I'm not going to bore you with those. But one of the interesting things that had come up for me was this idea of complacency. I'd got my business to a point where, to be honest, a lot of it just runs. And I've created some phenomenal products that I'm really proud of. And I've had some amazing clients who've got amazing results and who continue to, build their businesses beyond six figures, multi-six figures. And it's been a really incredible ride. So when I was, on this coaching session and this coach said to me, well, what do you want to achieve? I was like, well, I kind of feel like I'm still working at the same level. Now, do you ever feel like that, where you kind of think, yeah, it's weird. I've done all this work. I've grown. I've developed as a person. I've developed professionally. I've learned new skills, but I'm still working at the same level. And whilst I love that, like I love my clients and I love where I am, I just felt like I wasn't pushing myself. And so my coach came back to me with a really interesting point, which was, I don't think you're coaching at the level that you need to be coaching at, and it's not fulfilling you. And I was like, oh, that feels uncomfortable, because it does, because when you think, if I need to be coaching at a high level, does that mean, well, what are the repercussions on my business? What are the repercussions on my existing customers? What is the conversation that I'm going to have? And how do I elevate that to the level that I now want to play at? And so it posed these really interesting questions. And we were digging in on my first session to the way that I wanted to do this, because for me, there are certain hard no's in my business. There are certain things that I don't want to change and that I don't want to get rid of. And so we were talking about these hard no's, and then we were exploring, what could actually come out of that? What opportunities could come out of the things that I don't want to say goodbye to? And what did that leave me open to getting rid of? And how could I streamline it? And what would it look like moving forward? And so we came to this idea about having some higher level opportunities, which I'm really excited about and that I haven't fleshed out yet. So forgive me for not kind of filling you in on all the goss. It's just that I don't know. I don't know yet. I've got to have session 2, right? But one of the interesting things that came up was this idea of credibility and authority. And my coach, and rightly so, said to me, well, if you want to play at a higher level, your positioning has to be way less cookie cutter than it currently is. And I was like, ouch, that stings. And we were looking at my website, and, we were kind of sat there and we were looking at the About Me page, and we were looking at some of the stuff that's written there. And my coach was saying to me, well, I don't I don't really think that this is reflective of the skills that you have. And again, that was an ouch moment, right? Oh, ouch. Okay, what have I not got in here? What have I forgotten? What have I, what client testimonial have I not showcased? And it was nothing to do with that. It was actually to do with the fact that over the years, my message has become not diluted, but I've dumbed down so that the industry feels more comfortable. Ooh, is anyone else like, oh, that's uncomfortable? It's uncomfortable to hear, but it's also uncomfortable to think about, oh, is that me? Have I dumbed myself down to make other people in my industry feel comfortable, to be more aligned with potentially my competitors, to play down my skills and experience, or even, and this is possibly my least favorite, but to play at a simpler level so that potential clients will get it quicker? Have you done that? Because I can't be the only one. And I mean, I think it's fair to say that this is possibly one of the more, I hate the word, but one of the more vulnerable episodes that I'm ever going to record, because actually these were big questions to me. Have I become cookie cutter? Have I become, or tried to become, mainstream inadvertently? And it got me to thinking about why, if I have done that, why I've done that. Why has it happened? And it was actually funny because I came off of the coaching call, and I know that generally people come off coaching calls and they're like, yeah, I'm super inspired, I'm going to go do loads of things. But I come off coaching calls and I'm pretty tired. I'm like, my brain's just had to work pretty hard for an hour. I need to veg with some TV. And so I was vegging with TV. Modern Family, we all know, is my current series of choice. If you follow me on Instagram, I talk about it pretty much all the time. And so I'm sat there and I'm thinking, I wonder why that's happened. And I'm also watching an episode of Modern Family where Luke tries to defeat his smart sister at Scrabble. And I'm kind of watching it. I'm like, yeah. And it made me think about the way that smart women are portrayed often in TV shows, films, and the difference, and perhaps some of the reasons that I had been maybe inadvertently dumbing down my message to make other people feel comfortable. And it was because whilst I was watching Modern Family, and this is completely, I think, unintentional on their part, but whilst I was watching it, I was like, it's really not a flattering view, right? So the smart girl, Alex, she eventually, is told that her brother's been cheating. He's been putting loads of extra Scrabble tiles in his so that he can make all these cool words, and she's losing for the first time ever. And then when she's told this, she acts like a really bad winner. And that's the part that's funny. Like, it is funny. There's no getting away from that. But the interesting thing was that when I start looking at the show, and when I start looking at what I'm watching, I see this girl, and she's super smart. She's going to be, if she was a real person, let's put that caveat in there. If she's a real person, she'd be out there. She'd be curing cancer. She'd be, doing big things. She'd be making new styles of rocket ship and stuff like that. And yet she's one of the least likable characters in the show. And that's hard in a comedy, right? But she's one of the least likable. And the fact that she's so smart alienates her from the rest of the characters, and they use that to alienate her. And I started thinking back, and I was like, over the course of my life, about things that have happened. And I remember at school, I was always that really annoying kid that knew the answer to stuff. Like, I just was. And so teachers would always put the kids who were finding it hard to pick up a subject, they put those kids next to me, and they go, well, yeah, they can learn from you. And I remember my mum going down to the school 3 or 4 times and saying, look, this isn't fair. Jess needs to be with people who challenge her, like put her up a grade, make her the stupid one in the class. And they wouldn't do it, because they would say, but other kids can learn from her, and that's great, and that really helps us. And it was embarrassing for me. It was really embarrassing. It felt so uncomfortable to be the smart one, because everybody had like high expectations. And then other kids would hate you because you would be that annoying kid that won every single award, and you would be the kid who got straight A's. And I didn't really have to try. Like, that was how annoying I was. I was like, oh, I don't really even have to try this. I don't have to sit and revise for tons of hours. I'm really fortunate. I have an eidetic memory. I can look at something and be like, oh, cool. That's great. I know that now. And instead of being something I was proud of, It became something that I used to try desperately hard to get away from. You know, I don't want to be smart. I don't want to be the kid that knows all the answers all the time. I don't want to put my head above the parapet, because everyone knows the smart kids are the ones that don't have any friends. And then when you go into the world of work, and I went into corporate sales, it's really not cool to be smart there. Really not cool to be smart in the world of corporate sales. And so people would say, oh, right, yeah, oh, you got first. Oh, okay, lovely. Can you just tell us, though, who won Pop Idol this weekend? You know, can you tell us who's on Strictly? I'd be like, I don't know. And it was uncomfortable to be smart. And I'd say things in meetings and it would make other people feel uncomfortable. And because it made them feel uncomfortable, they treat me differently. And it became this thing that throughout my entire life, I was like, oh, well, being smart is not a good thing. Being somebody who is able to understand clear differences, who is able to excel academically, who, you know, is able to do a lot of things, that's not something to be proud of. And so this came back to me in this kind of post-coaching session haze, you know, this belief that actually being smart isn't nice. It's not a good thing. It's not something that I should appreciate. And it made me feel really uncomfortable, because then I kept thinking, oh my goodness, well, what I've been doing is being super dismissive of my credibility, of the things that actually give me authority in the market. And what's actually happened over the last few years is that whilst I've been working so hard to overcome certain things in the industry that I'm just like, ugh, these things are gross, or they're really sleazy, or they're just not right, they need changing, I've gone the other way. I spent so much time trying to overcome them that I've just avoided them completely. You know, take giveaways and summits, right? We all know I hate giveaways and summits. And I do. But the reason I hate them is not because they're not a great tool when used with integrity. It's not because, you know, I don't like participating on interview series. It's because ultimately so many of them are a sham, right? We see all these build your business, make more money summits, and I'm looking at the people taking part and I'm like, I know you're not making money. And that sounds horrible, right? I'm literally recording this podcast like, oh my God. That sounds horrible, but it's true. And I'm tired of it being true. And I got so tired of it being true that instead of thinking about, well, what can I do? What can I use my credibility for? What can I use the authority that I've built in the market to do better? I kind of went the other way and I was like, no, screw it. I'm just not going to do those things. I don't want to be tarred with that brush. I'm done. And that was the wrong way to go in certain instances. I'm not saying I'm going to participate in every single summit from now on, because I just, yeah, there are other things. But, you know, it was interesting for me, this idea that had come up around this, oh my goodness, you know, where have I not been honest with my audience? What have I not told them? And I started making this list of everything that, you know, gives me more credibility than perhaps other people who do what I do. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, well, you know, this year I'm coming up to 14 years of sales experience. That's a long time. Like, that's a really long time. You know, the average salesperson in corporate, they leave within 18 months because it's really hard. Sales is hard, and it's a tough industry, and it's competitive, and people actually don't really like working in sales all that much. The money's good, but it's really stressful, and people who work in sales, we burn out quickly. But 14 years of learning sales techniques. And then I started thinking about it, and I was like, oh, okay, what else have I done? And I thought, oh, well, you know, what about that time that I led that team who were brand new in a recessive market, from doing nothing to making £500,000 a quarter? That was pretty cool. But I don't talk about it because I'm like, oh, well, it might make someone feel uncomfortable. You know, big numbers, they make people feel uncomfortable, and they do. But equally, it's one of those things that in my business, in my area of expertise, that actually I should be talking about. Because if I'm not talking about it, I'm doing you guys a disservice, because you might think, well, you know, what does Jess know about that? Well, I'm just going to go and buy from, you know, somebody who's shouting all over social media, and maybe you do get the results you want, and maybe you don't. But if I don't give everybody the right information to make an informed decision, who's doing the disservice, me or you? It's an interesting question to pose. And for me, it's this idea of credibility and authority. And are we actually owning the credibility and authority that we have? And a lot of people aren't. Because when we come into the online space, it's not cool, right? It's easier to dumb it down. And I have so many people who come to me and they say, yeah, but Jess, I want to talk about this. I want to sell this to my clients, but they just won't get it. And every single time that's happened, I've said to people, well, take them on the journey. Like, who are you to define how intelligent your customers are? But it's so prevalent and it's so easy to fall into the trap. And that's what I want to stop with this episode, because I know that we talk, and I know that in the online world, we talk a lot about having it all and going out and doing the things that scare you and facing your fears and doing it anyway. And that's become really cliche. But for me, this idea that you should hide your credibility and that you should not share your credibility is criminal. And that's what I want at the end of this episode for you to think is, who am I not to share what I can do? Who am I not to share the amazing things that I'm capable of? Because if I don't, I'm not giving my audience the information they need to make the very best decision for them. So let's talk about how credibility and authority is used when it comes to sales and what you can be doing to harness more of it and help you improve your positioning in the market. So the first thing is that credibility and authority sell. And, we've just talked a little bit about why it should sell because, frankly, if you have more credibility, you should find it easier to sell. You're really qualified. You should be able to talk about it and people should be looking at you and going, wow, that's awesome. The reality is that credibility and authority sell because it's showcasing what you're genuinely good at. And if you have experiences or certifications or qualifications that have gotten you to a certain place in life, it's aspirational. And it also gives people a sense of reassurance. Think about it. We buy sports cars from Ferrari, not from Ford. And we do it for a reason. We don't assume that Ford couldn't come out with some high-tech, high-performance car. But if it did, if Ford did come out and they had this amazing sports car, people would be cynical because that's not what they're good at traditionally. But Ferrari were like, oh yeah, bring another one out. Do it every 10 days. Charge us £300,000 for a car, no worries. And we'll pay it because that is what they're good at. We have reassurance. We have credibility. We have years of authority in that market. The research they've done, the testing is phenomenal. Now, when I was back in corporate, I used to work with a race car brand. And it was awesome. And this particular race car brand, they not only made high performance cars, but they also made prosthetics for people who were missing limbs and particularly athletes and high sports people that were missing limbs. And they were amazing. They were incredible at it. But when you said to people, oh my goodness, do you know that X race car brand, they also make prosthetics? They go, no way. Because it wasn't what they were known for. They didn't have that immediate credibility that another medical device firm may have had in that particular space. But they did it and, they did really well, but nobody ever knew about it. And I always wondered whether, if they positioned it differently, if they told more people, would they be more successful? Would they be sponsoring the Paralympics? Who knows? But it was really interesting for me. And that's that idea behind credibility and authority actually selling. You can have amazing brands out there who do incredibly well, both at a high ticket level and a lower ticket. If we look at here in the UK, well, actually everywhere, I'm pretty sure now has Starbucks, right? Everywhere has a Starbucks and you can get a coffee and it's like, £5. Which I still think is pretty extortionate for something I can make in my house, like 2 pence. But still, for convenience, Starbucks is great. And they're all over the UK. In fact, we even have drive-through Starbucks now, which I'm like, this is mental. But we have these Starbucks and we buy from Starbucks because we feel safe buying from Starbucks. You know what you're going to get. You know, you're going to get a cup of coffee that, you know, tastes fine. It's going to be hot. Somebody ostensibly is going to have to have learned to have made it properly. And you feel reassured. They have a credibility in the market. But if you go outside and you're at a street market and you see, you know, a stall that is selling coffee, you're not going to part with £5 to buy their coffee because they don't have any credibility. They don't have any authority in the market. So it doesn't matter that it's still relatively low ticket. It's like, well, yeah, but I don't know what I'm going to get. I could just get hot water with like one coffee bean and that wouldn't make me happy. So start thinking about, you know, is your current level of credibility selling for you? Are you telling people about what you actually do, where you excel? Or have you been holding back because you're like, well, if I tell other people that, it looks like I'm bragging or like I'm being arrogant or, you know, like I'm just really pushy. Because you don't have to do it in a pushy way. You know, the other thing about credibility is that it actually gives you leave to charge more. Now, you know, let's say the Starbucks example, right? I'm not going to pay £5 for unknown coffee, rightly or wrongly. But I'm going to pay £5, probably more if I go with a friend. Probably more if I upsell to a biscuit, which I usually do. But I'm going to pay that at Starbucks because I trust their brand. They have credibility, they have authority. They might not be the best coffee in the world, but I know what I'm going to get, and that's okay. Yeah. So I don't worry about whether I'm paying £5 or £6. But if I go out to that unknown entity and I pay a load of money and they don't have any credibility or authority, I'm skeptical, you know, and so it's quite likely that I don't give them the sale, full stop. Yeah. The other interesting example for that is a company like Cartier. I love diamonds. I'm obsessive with gemstones. And actually one of the weird things about me was that when I was 18, I was working for a jewelry firm. I qualified to be a certified gemologist. So that I have something called a Jet 1 qualification, and I have a bunch of other qualifications about diamonds because I was like, I really like diamonds. I do. I like sparkly things. And one of the companies who are huge in the diamond world is obviously Cartier. Cartier has been known for years and years and years as a leader in the diamond industry. They mine certified diamonds. They have a huge background of having quality stones. They are religious about making sure their diamonds are ethically mined and sourced. And there are just lots of things about Cartier that are great. It all stems back to that credibility piece. We're doing it a long time. They make sure they're ethically sourced. They put a lot of money into design. They put a lot of time into making sure they've got the very best stones and that they develop the best cuts so that they can showcase the facets and the color and all that kind of thing that matters. And as a result, they charge premium prices because although they are selling fewer diamonds than the average jewelry store, you know, the average chain jewelry store, they're also incurring fewer costs, right? They don't have as many staff because they don't physically have as many premises, but they still make way more money. And it's because of the credibility and the quality. They have a credible history. They provide a brand leading experience. When you go into a Cartier and you buy something from Cartier, the experience is phenomenal. And so actually, they compete based on their credibility in the market. They compete based on their quality as opposed to competing on price. And that really helps, you know, that really helps. And especially during this time of like economic uncertainty, we all know Cartier is going to be fine because they're not competing on price, because they're not looking for a section of the market that is mid-range. They're not trying to compete with all of the mainstream jewelry stores. They're right at the top and they're fine about that. So start thinking about how your credibility can actually let you charge more. If you were to actually sit down and think about all the amazing things that you've done that have led you to this point in time and have led you to being the very best web designer or graphic designer or VA or coach or consultant, if you actually listed those out, are you currently charging for those things? Are you currently charging for the experiences that you've gained? Are you currently charging for the qualifications that you've undertaken, for the sheer amount of time and energy that you've put into things? Because I bet you're not. I'm not. You know, and I'm somebody who, I really look at my pricing strategy every single 3 months. And you know, I'd forgotten for a whole year to look at my credibility. It's interesting, isn't it? You know, and then the final thing I want you to take away for today is to think about really listing out those things, those high achievement self awards, right? What is it that makes you special? What is it that gives you credibility and authority in the market? What is it that makes you a leader? You know, all of those experiences, whether it's school experiences, whether it's things that you know, have achieved in your business, things that you achieved in the corporate workplace, things that you achieved in previous businesses, whatever that looks like, I want you to have that list and actually look at it and think, do I talk about any of this? And if, like me, you don't, then start thinking, well, where could I be using this? Where could I be talking about it? Where could I be marketing it? What could this be doing for my branding or my positioning or my ability to charge more in the current market? Just have a think about that. And if you have any questions, as always, feel free. You can drop me an email, get in touch, let me know how you think you could be charging more and dominating your market by really building on your own credibility and authority. Okay, my loves, I will see you in Wednesday's episode. It's a goodie. It's a 10-min sharp, sweet shock to the system, getting some sales in. And as always, if there is anything you need, please feel free, email me, leave a review, let me know how we're getting on, and I will see you in Wednesday's episode.